Hello, everyone. I'm Leha, and this is Chai Chat and Community. Tonight, I'm chatting with Sheba Nandkeolyar, who's the founder and CEO of MultiConnexions Group, the brand champion of ICC T20 World Cup 2020, board member of IAA and Media Diversity Australia, national chair of Women in Business Australia India Business Council, and she wears many, many more hats. Thank you, Sheba, for coming to the show.
Thank you, Saleha. I'm so thrilled to be here today with you.
And I'm too. Sheba and I go back a long way.
Very long.
Yes. And I'm really excited. So, Sheba, I know about you, but would you mind telling my viewers who are watching about yourself, please?
Sure. How do I define myself or describe myself? Definitely a mother, a wife, a professional, and an entrepreneur. But I think something that I value the most is really, above all, being a woman. That's how I would really like to define myself. And the second definition that I'm really fond of when people ask me, how do you define as yourself? And I say, I'm a reluctant migrant. I was literally a reluctant migrant. I never wanted to migrate, but having come here, I did throw my heart and soul into adapting into the new country, new customs, new friends, new people, saw their warmth and hospitality. And today I must say, I really, really love this country. So I would say, finally, a proud Australian Indian.
Thank you, Sheba. Sheba, you're the founder and the CEO of MultiConnexions. What prompted you to start your own company?
I would say that when I came to Australia, I realized that this country was extremely multicultural. I mean, today, if you look at the latest census, you're looking at almost 51% of Australians who are either born overseas or who have at least one parent born overseas. So this is your audience profile. Now, I have always been, and Saleha, you knew me from the time I was doing my MBA, and then when I got into my first job with Clarion McCann, have always been passionate about advertising.
Yes.
So when I came here, I realized that the advertisers and the advertising agencies were very much focusing only on 50% of the audience, which is really just a mainstream audience. And they were very happy to just, use the one size fits all strategy and target everyone. And it just doesn't happen that way. So when I realized that there was that niche, that's the time when I realized that, okay, here's a gap and a definite niche marketing that is opportunity that is available. And that's how it got me thinking. And initially had joined Ogilvy Group, led the company for almost 5 years, even as the managing director of the firm, but then decided to start off on my own in this particular niche area.
Thank you. What is your core strength and segment that you address?
So I would say my core strength and segment would be definitely multicultural audiences, as I said. And it's interesting because when you look at multicultural audiences, these are, yes, like look at South Asians. They of course speak English. And they'll say, oh, why do we need to really target these audiences through separately or with a different campaign because they can speak English? But yes, while they can speak English, they are culturally very rooted. They have their own preferences. They have their own likings. They have their own aspirations and dreams that they have come with. And it's uniquely influenced by their own cultural beliefs. So, and then again, there are audiences that are very language dependent. So it's really a mix of reasons, but whatever be the reason, it's these multicultural audiences who are unique. They have come to this country with their own aspirations, own dreams, heavily influenced by their own cultural beliefs. And therefore, obviously, it affects and impacts their purchase decisions. Which brands will they pick up? Which brands they feel are talking to them? Which brands do they feel really have warmed up to them and are, talking to them in the language that they understand and which touches their heart. And therefore, I think these are the reasons and core reasons, I would say, why I got into this.
Thank you. So coming back to media diversity, I think you've kind of address this question. So over the past few years, we are seeing more advertisements that are aimed at South Asians.
Yeah.
Why has this diaspora become so important suddenly?
I would say as we see Australia is heavily dependent on migration. Okay,
Yeah.
because of COVID and whatever reasons, at the moment the international borders are closed, and we have obviously the migration numbers are reduced. But this is not always going to be the case. It is a country which has been heavily dependent on migration, and it is an economy which has benefited hugely from migration. So I would say definitely, sorry, can I just grab the question once more?
So we are seeing more advertisements that are aimed at South Asians. Why has this diaspora become so important?
Yeah. So as you can see that with the migration impact, the numbers have gone up massively. Now, if you look at just South Asia alone, South Asians alone, we're looking at almost 1.5 to 1.75 million by ancestry.
Wow.
Yes, by
Wow.
ancestry. Okay. So let's not forget that South Asians come from various countries like, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and so on, so forth, Nepal, and so on. But also they come from various other countries. So not just from India or let's say Pakistan or Bangladesh. They're coming from Fiji, they're coming from UK, they're coming from South Africa, so many other different countries. So if you look at the ancestry, it's huge. Now, similarly, look at the Chinese and the Asian audiences. That's Chinese audiences, another 1.5 to, they're almost equivalent to the Indian population, another 1.75 million by ancestry. Now, some of the population figures that we've done, Saleha, would be very interesting. The projections that we have done in the agency and our analytics team, they're constantly working on it. The metro audiences are going to be hugely dominated by South Asians and Asian audiences. In fact, in another couple of years, you're going to have 30% of Sydney and Melbourne metro audiences who are going to be either a South Asian, Indian, or a Chinese person. Can you believe it?
Wow.
So those are the sheer numbers we're talking of, and why it is so important. Because, the marketers are realizing that this is a massive revenue opportunity for them and a whole new growth area for them.
Thank you. So why has this gained so much of importance for Australian brands, like you've just said? Do you target a particular age group or an income group when you're doing your advertisements?
So I would say when we do our marketing planning and campaign planning for clients, and we are very lucky within the agency because we're working with the top 5 brands in terms of the top 5 ASX listed companies. So they are big brands we're talking of. And the interesting thing is these brands have now realized that diversity and inclusion is a very important, number one, a very important part of their marketing and overall com strategy. Number 2, I do believe that when you're looking at diversity, especially we're talking of media diversity, a lot of these clients have realized that perhaps some of the campaigns had been a bit stereotyped. So just sticking a pair of let's say chopsticks in an ad does not necessarily mean it's going to appeal to the Chinese, or sticking, let's say, a cricketing image into an Indian ad means it's hugely appealing to Indian. It doesn't happen. So
it's really so stereotypical, isn't it?
It's very stereotypical, and this is where I think a lot of these big brands are now realizing, we spoke about the big brands, are realizing that we really need to move away from stereotyping by just sticking a face or a image, but really talking to them in a more personalized manner. Saleha, let me share a very interesting ad that I saw when I first came into this country. And believe me, that was my first week in Australia. And I see this TV ad on mainstream TV, I forget channel 7, 9, or 10. And the ad was an insurance ad where there's this set of parents who are, waiting, and their 2 kids, grown-up son and daughter, maybe in the region of 17, 18 years old, have packed their bags and they're loading up their bags in their car and they're leaving home. Okay. Now, I was very much interested to see what this ad was about, because I could see it was an insurance brand. And I could also sense through the ad that the parents were actually very delighted, and they were very joyous about the fact that the kids were actually leaving home, but they were trying to control their emotions.
Okay.
As soon as the car left, can you believe, both the parents threw up their hands in joy and said, payback time. And you could see them enjoying themselves. And it was all about a travel insurance. And I just sat there and I thought to myself, oh my God, if this was any South Asian, any Asian family, any multicultural family, probably that would be the saddest day in the life of a parent
Absolutely.
when
Yes.
the kids leave. Certainly, you're not going to see an
Yes. Yes.
emotion like that. And I thought to myself, no, 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 this brand has not got it right. Maybe right for the mainstream audience, totally wrong for those multicultural audiences.
Yes.
So what has happened? This brand has actually managed to distance itself from almost 50% of the
Yes.
Australians. So this is how it works, yeah.
Talking about children leaving, I remember when my daughter left home for the first
Yeah.
time. She must have been 22, and she just moved a few suburbs away. I cried, and every time she used to come home, I would cry, and I'm like, why? So yes, that's us, and we have such a big, we are very good consumers. I as my children say, I'm a marketer's delight. I will buy everything that is on TV as long as it
Yeah,
appeals to me. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
think,
absolutely.
do you think
Absolutely.
that has changed, Sheba?
Which one? Sorry?
Do you think this mindset of, appealing to us, uh,
Yes, it
women
is
like us, it's changing?
very, very slowly. I have to be very frank. Australian marketers are not as go-getting as marketers overseas. Many of them haven't had the exposure to Asia or have seen what is happening in these countries because they're all new countries. The technology, the people, the way things are moving forward. I think it's slow, but it's happening. More and more, marketers are now gradually realizing that, look, we really need to start targeting and at least personalizing these messages to these audiences so that it becomes more relevant for them. So, and also then they come through as a friend and a warm personality. The brand gets a personality rather than a cold commercial body that's there to, grab my funds from my pocket.
Yep.
So I think, there's a clear distinction in the way you communicate, how do you position yourself. Yeah.
Talking about this, when you said they don't know the market, up until a few years ago, I was working with an organization which was
Yep.
into education funds.
Yeah.
So they had got an outside marketer
Yeah.
who was going to redo the strategy and everything. And
Yeah.
obviously, they are aiming at South Asians and specifically Indians, because education is what all of us South Asians are looking for our children.
Absolutely.
And so she talks about, all these people coming by boat. And I said, but we don't come by boat. And she's like, what do you mean? I thought all the people who are non-Caucasian come by boat. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is your level of understanding, and you're going to market to, as you said, 50% of the Australian population, that she actually thinks all South Asians come to Australia by boat.
Yeah.
So
It's terrible. And I tell you one thing, I think it's gradually changing. The understanding that these audiences forget they're not refugees. Yes, there are a quota of refugees that come, and we must be always very mindful and sympathetic and empathetic to be able to do the best for them, because they have left a lot and they have come here, and some of them come from very good families. But having said that, majority of the migrants who are coming in, almost 95%, are not refugees.
no,
They're actually coming from countries. Now, if you look at the two top countries where the migrants are coming from today, and they have displaced UK and New Zealand, and that's China and India. Okay. Now, if you look at these two countries, they are absolutely booming economies.
absolutely.
And people who are coming in are professionals, highly qualified. They're coming in with disposable income. Saleha, I remember 20 years ago when I used to do campaigns for, let's say, automobile companies. I found new migrants would take roughly anywhere between 6 to 8 months or sometimes even a year before they bought a car. Today, as soon as they come in, they are coming in flushed with funds. They don't
Yep.
even take a loan.
Yep.
They're buying immediately one of the cars and a new car, not a second-hand car. Why? Because we know that these audiences love the manufacturer's warranty. So, yeah, the scenario is very different. Today,
Yep.
the way they're contributing to the economy is amazing. Yeah.
So who are the major brands that you target in this segment? I mean, if you don't want to name anybody, I understand that. But
I'm fine to name. I'm
okay.
absolutely fine to name. It's there in my website, and I'm very proud to say that Telstra is one of our clients, and they have been very mindful of these multicultural audiences, diversity initiatives, and they've done fairly well in this space. We work with ANZ, we work with a couple more insurance companies, automobile companies, luxury companies. Like we've done a fair bit of work with Moe Hennessy. In fact, we hosted seven generation Morris Hennessy, when he came to Australia, through various KOL campaigns, influencer dinners. So, it's really a mix of clients from automobile to telecom to insurance to banking, financial services, wealth solution. So really, it's a whole. I've even done a bit of work for University of Sydney. From education down to, and education, as you said, is going to become a very key. In fact, now with international students, which have really kind of, the numbers have come down, I believe that the university should really start looking at the South Asians and the Asian audiences here, because we know, what we've gone through with our parents. It's always been
Yes,
education as the number one priority. So, they can actually really maximize the share from these audiences. Yeah.
absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you. So talking about brands, you know about the Tanishq ad that is created
Oh,
in India and that is being pulled down. Uh, what are your views on it? I did the interview with SBS, and I've
I
had
saw that
people
interview.
trolling me.
Yes. I saw that interview this morning. This is a great interview. And I'm
Thank
glad that
you.
you actually spoke up loud and clear, because what we do need is very clear voices, and it's not about passing judgment. It's about really speaking out what is right and what is wrong. Now, in terms of the Tanishq ad, as an advertising and a marketing professional, I feel really sorry and sad that such a beautiful ad was actually pulled. From from whichever platforms it was
Yep.
on. I forget, TV and whatever. Great ad. It had some amazing, it had an amazing theme which brought the two communities, two cultural groups
Yes.
together, the Muslims and the Hindus. And I thought to myself, in a very such a beautiful manner, where they even show, because Saleha, there is that stereotype perception that Muslims can be a little bit, the Muslim community can be a little bit rigid. And I thought to myself, as a marketing person, oh, wow, can you imagine, more than the Hindus, they're showing the Muslim community being so flexible in doing things, following traditions which are not normally theirs, just to make sure, and to treat the daughter-in-law as a daughter. I thought it was an amazing ad. So I'm personally pretty annoyed that that ad has got pulled, all because of stupidity and stupid mindsets that are small-minded and can't see the bigger picture. So I think it's disastrous. I mean, if you ask me, think of that Google ad. You remember the Google ad where the two old friends get to meet? They were, childhood friends. They used to be in Karachi together. And then after the partition, they got, separated. And try and Google and see that Google ad.
Okay.
And finally, through Google, the two
I know
grandkids.
which one. Yes, yes. Now
Yeah,
I
the
know which
two
one. Yes,
grandkids
yes,
brought them together face to face, and how emotionally, touching it was, And I think, when brands do things like this, I think they look at a higher social purpose rather than just selling.
yes.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's what Tanishq was doing. And okay, jewelry is a byproduct. And of course, they would want to sell their jewelry. They have to recover their money and they have to grow. But I think the bigger social purpose was so good, and it kind of defeated its purpose by pulling that ad. Not happy, in one
I
word.
have to say here, the journalist who interviewed me, he shared the ad on one of the Indians in Melbourne group.
Yeah.
And of course, people had a lot to say about me. In fact, one wrote saying, "Why do you need this jewelry? Because you will be in a burqa."
Oh my God. You know what?
So these are people who move from India, and they carry all their prejudices, and this is what they're teaching their children. And then he wants to give me all kinds of data. I decided not to argue with him. I mean, it is really sad. It is really sad.
I'm shocked about what you're telling me, because one would have expected that when you are migrating into another country, you tend to then, try and integrate, adapt, and have a more open and a wider mindset, right? Rather than a narrow-minded set, narrow-minded views of things. And I am shocked that this trolling that you're saying has happened in a group. It's shocking. That's all I can say. And I feel sorry for their children. Forget it. Not just for themselves, but even for their children. If this is the kind of role model that such mothers can provide, or I don't know if it's a mother's group or whatever. Mothers, it's even more horrible. Because is this the role model you're trying to provide to your kids? Sad. There's no other word.
Sad.
Talking about that, Saleha, let me tell you one thing. Like, I used to be a part of, the Australia India Business Council. I still am. I have been always very passionate about, bilateral business. Even before I came to Australia, I used to be a part of FICCI. I was a member of FICCI.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
And, I was a part of FLOW. That's the ladies' wing, which did business, or they were professionals. So I was like deep into this. So when I came in, obviously I looked around, found AIBC was there, joined AIBC as a member 20 years ago. As soon as I migrated, I think I must be one of the oldest AIBC members. But the interesting thing is that when I came to a certain position as a national chair, and I'm going to be quite open about it, I started receiving such trolling social media posts, anonymous emails, bagging me, trolling me.
Because you're a woman?
I'll tell you, copying the whole world, and did not have the guts to put their name to who they are, So, and I was thinking to myself, this is so sad, because obviously we reported it to the police, and they have started doing a dossier, and they continue to do this, by the way, even with the present national leadership team. And there's a dossier which is getting prepared, and some of the leaders were absolutely dumbfounded that this is happening in the South Asian community, but it is happening. And this is where you're talking about trolling. I don't know whether, probably because I'm a woman, they thought they could get kind of bully me a little bit.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen, because I have never lost my temper. I don't scream or shout. You know me, you've lived with me, but I'm firm about my views about what's right and what is wrong, and I won't move from that. So I think that's it's kind of follows the same thing that's happened to you on the trolling area. Yeah,
it's very sad, but
yeah.
So now we come to the business part of it, because so with the Australia-China pushback, for trade, do you think India will gain? And if it does, how?
Okay, you've come to my favorite topic. Absolutely. See, for the past few years, it has been a huge effort, and here I'm not representing the national chair, because I'm not the national chair, but just my experience being the national chair of Business Council, and currently the Women in Business chapter chair. I would say over the years, it has been a very, very tough proposition. I was very lucky, because, when I was a national vice chair, I managed to host, along with the then chair, Prime Minister Modi, when he had come to Australia. And it was obviously things started looking up from then on. He did up the image of India. Brand India became a reality for a lot of people, and we could see even for a lot of Australian businesses. China continued to be a huge preoccupation with most Australian businesses. And I would say that I spend so much of time, effort, and voluntary, because we don't get paid for all this. It has been a very tough gig for people to get them to go to India, look at India. It started gradually happening, and more so after Mr. Modi took over. I was very fortunate in being one of the reference group members for the India Economic Strategy, which was prepared 2035 by Australian government. And it just saw the massive potential that India has. So I would say, it's not about one country versus another, but I think India should now really come on its own and be able to stand up and offer those amazing advantages that can happen to Australian businesses when they go to India. Make in India is another one that India is really pushing. And I believe it has very good legs, because I've got interests in one or two other businesses and companies, and where we are looking seriously at manufacturing in India and exporting across the world. So I think there are some huge opportunities in India. Gradually, people are discovering. Recently, we had a webinar in AIBC, just following on from the virtual summit that the two prime ministers had. And we had the Business Council of Australia chief who joined us, Jennifer Westacott. We had the Export Council of Australia chair, Diane Tipping, who had joined us. And there was no question that they are very keen to work closely with the IBC now and really take this relationship forward. So I see good things happening at the trade area, that's the export and import, and definitely also in the investment. Slowly but surely. I'm not saying it's happening all together, but slowly but surely. Yeah.
Okay. Again, I think you've just answered my question of how is the Australia Business Council harnessing this opportunity. So I will ask you something that you are passionate about. Tell us about women in business.
Okay, women in business. So this is a chapter that I actually, and Saleha, from my FICCI days, I was a part of Flow. There was a time when I even led Flow and in India, and have been very heavily involved there too. And not many people know that besides advertising, I had started my own fashion accessories company in India. If you remember, when I touched Delhi, within the first year, we actually won the best upcoming export award too. And obviously bilateral business and trade has always been in my blood. So having come here, I got the opportunity when the chair at that time said, would you like to contribute in any way? And I said, absolutely. Am I able to, can I, set up the Women in Business chapter? And I founded the Women in Business chapter. The vision is very clear. It's 50-50. That means every business that is set up in this bilateral space should be either led by a woman or owned by a woman, at least 50% of such businesses. So that's our vision. And I think, we're getting there gradually. The number of women professionals I'm seeing now in this Australian Indian space is just amazing.
Yes, I have been very surprised with the webinar the other day. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, and I'm actually really looking out. And Saleha, if you do come across, even in Melbourne, anyone who's in this bilateral space. So we're not looking at the Women in Business in AIBC is not about business here only. So there's lots of women in business groups which look after, standalone businesses, but it's really only about bilateral business. So yeah, it's really going well. And for me, you spoke about India. Even in my company, I've already set up trading desks in digital trading desks in India and China. So we do all our programmatic trading stuff happening in two countries. So, and believe it or not, India is actually doing really, really well and providing some amazing results for my clients. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And before we say goodnight, the most important questions. Both you and I are migrants. You are a reluctant one, me not so reluctant. What advice would you have for new migrants who have just come in and got into this COVID? And also, especially for young women, migrant women who are doing it tough, or people who want to go into the workforce but don't know how to do it?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Saleha, for asking me that, because I passionately believe that you really need to mentor young people and new migrants who come in, help them in any way possible. I'm not one of those people. I know there are a lot of people who look away. Oh my God, I'm going to be pulled into something. That's not how I'm made. In fact, not very many people know that I actually start my day every day. Sometimes it's not just 5 days, sometimes it's 7 days, including a Saturday and Sunday. My first hour is always spent mentoring people, and that starts at 7:30 in the morning. So I always have a cup of coffee or a breakfast with either a new migrant or a young person who wants to. And this has been my life ever since 20 years I've been here. So I passionately believe in young people. I do believe that a lot of people come in here and they believe. I know that a lot of people have done very well. So did we, all of us. We were in very established positions. But when we come, we have to realize that we have to make a beginning somewhere. And it doesn't matter wherever it may be, because it is a country which also celebrates success. And when you do well, they will look after you. And I've seen that in my work situation when I first joined a company. I was a director at in my earlier interpub in the agency. When I came here, oh, all we can give you is an account manager. You know what? That's what I was like 10 years ago. But you know what? I took it up. In less than 3 months, and this is my message to all new migrants and young people, in less than 3 months, they discovered, okay, this is what she can do. Please take over as a general manager. In 2 years, I was leading as the MD. So, if I had turned down that, oh, it's too junior, I can't do it. And that's what a lot of people do. I'll wait for something which is more aligned to my seniority or level. I say my first key message is seize any and every opportunity that comes your way. Sometimes even the first opportunity doesn't matter. It gets you a foot into an industry, into the workforce, into connecting with more people, and therefore sets you up. Secondly, I would say always try and reach out and network. Reach out. When you find somebody good, if you don't ask, you won't get it. LinkedIn is there. See who are the role models that you can, reach out to. Okay, out of 10 people, one will definitely come back to you.
Yes.
So I would say reaching out to role models that you can follow, networking, and finally really remaining grounded. Because very often what happens is when we start doing well, then, it's almost like, oh, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. I mean, I work, sometimes, my working hours, 14, 15 hours a day, easy. But, if anybody tries to reach out to me, yes, even if I can't get back to them immediately, I will send, it is absolutely a must that I will send an email quickly. Senior email, will be coming back to you very shortly, and try and reach out and help, because you have to give back to the community. Whatever you've received, let's give back. That would be my final piece of advice.
Thank you, Sheba. As always, so good to see you.
It is. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thinking.
Well, thank you. And whenever you're next in Melbourne, I will see you. This time I'll make time. And please give me more than 8 hours notice or 4 hours notice.
No, we will. It's good to see you, Saleha.
Thanks, Sheba.
Take care. Bye. And
bye.
Bye-bye to all your listeners too.
Thank you for watching. Bye, Sheba.